I'm Emma, this is Emma Rose and Books, and I want to do a book review for you today. I would like to review for you this book, The Positive Breastfeeding book by Professor Amy Brown. She doesn't write Professor on here, she's just written Amy Brown. Well, I imagine she didn't write this, the cover designers did. But nonetheless, Professor, she's a professor, that's cool. So, this book came out not that long ago, just literally a couple of weeks, and it's doing really, really well, and that's exciting. I love Amy Brown's writing. Anyway, she's written a book called Breastfeeding Uncovered that I'm pretty sure I've talked about on here before, and she also wrote a book called Why Starting Solids Matters. That's a really great book too, and she's really interested. Oh, she was on the Breastfeeding Uncovered documentary as well, which I've talked about on here. She's great on social media too, she's worth checking out. I'll link her below actually so you can go and see her talking if you're interested. So in general, she's a cool and interesting person. So after hearing all the hype about this book, I wanted to pick up a copy and see what the deal was, because I'm a breastfeeding peer supporter, and so it's handy for me to be able to know what books are out and what's good and so on. The blurb for this book is quite long. I'm just going to read the end. It says, "The Positive Breastfeeding book doesn't promise to make it easy, nor will it get up in the middle of the night for you, but it will empower you with the knowledge and encouragement you need to feed your baby with confidence." So, this book is part of a series, kinda. There's another book called The Positive Birth Book, which has been really popular. It's really well thought of. I haven't actually read it, but I know it's well considered. So this has got the same kind of branding as that book. So I've bookmarked a few bits that I wanted to talk about in here. So the first one is right at the beginning, in the introduction, page 9. It goes through, I put this on Instagram, some just common concerns, just basic, you know, will I be able to make enough milk? In the vast majority of cases, yes. Will it hurt? No. It shouldn't, and if it does, there are people to help. Will my baby sleep? Probably not, but how you feed them won't make any difference. There's a few things like that, and it just gives you a snapshot without going into the detail, quick answer. It then goes into the detail later on. And just that little bit of information there is actually really great, a really good starting point for learning about breastfeeding, I thought. So yeah, I stuck that on my Instagram. Then it goes straight in with why bother with breastfeeding. Now personally, I am not a big fan in starting things off by talking about, you know, the health benefits of breastfeeding and that, because I think everything does, even academic papers generally start off that way, and I feel like it's so well established that it's, I don't know, it bugs me. It didn't need to bug me. I still think it's important to talk about it, but I just don't like it being at the beginning. It's a personal preference thing, but all books do it, so that's not a criticism, it's a standard for people to talk that way. Anyway, however, before she goes into the health benefits, the first point she puts about why bother with breastfeeding, she's put, because you want to. And that is great that she started with that, just saying the main reason to breastfeed is because you want to breastfeed. That is a really important point, and I thought that was awesome that she's done that. Moving on, going through the book, it gives real life experiences all the way through. So each section, it then has some life experience, and I think that's really great because as a society we're missing a lot of that experience transmission because not an awful lot of women breastfeed, and so having, you know, little snippets with people's real experiences I think is great and a really good thing to have done in this book. So I love that, plus I like reading real stories. What have I bookmarked here? This section is how long should I breastfeed for, and she's basically said, you know, you don't have to make a decision. Breastfeed for as long as you breastfeed. Whatever your goal is your goal, and take it a day at a time, and you know, go with that. And I liked that rather than saying, oh, you should do this, you should. I mean, not that any books really do, but I just liked the fact that it was put very plainly of take it a day at a time. See how you go. You don't have to say on day one, oh, I'm going to breastfeed for 2 years. You can say, well, I'm going to see how it goes, I'm going to breastfeed today. And I think that that's a really great approach. And then if people say, how long are you going to breastfeed for? There doesn't need to be an answer. I liked that a lot. Right, another section I've bookmarked. She makes the point that when our mums and our grandmothers were having babies, that they were told, you know, to try and get their babies to sleep through the night, not to feed them at night, to get them onto a schedule, all of those kind of things. And she says how they were advised to care for babies was probably very different to the advice given today. Remember this when she suggests your baby's feeding too much, and use it to talk about how things are different now. Not wrong before, but different now. That is also really good, because of course you can only go with what information you've got at any time, and any mother is going to do the best she can and act on the information that she has. And what our mothers or grandmothers did wasn't wrong, it was the best that they could do, and there's just been research since in different ways of thinking. So I think that is approached really nicely as well, to just say things are just different, people do things differently, and yeah, I like that, that's great. Right, then there's a really good section, can I breastfeed and she goes through, can I breastfeed and drink, can I smoke, can I have caffeine, can I take drugs, she even said, can I take cocaine and breastfeed, which I really like. I know that's a really common question, and people get really worried about, you know, can I eat Brussels sprouts and breastfeed, and can I, you know, all this stuff. People really worry about it, and I think it's cool that there's a section that's dedicated to giving the answers to some of that stuff. Okay, another bit I really liked, this is talking about how you feel about your body and sort of dieting and that kind of thing. This is such a good point. It says, imagine for a second that men had babies. Would they be buying stretch mark creams and thinking about lasering them off? Would they be buying control underwear? Does that even exist for men? And does it? Can you get like Spanx for men? I don't think you can. Would they be bemoaning the increased size of their breasts, or would they instead be having competitions about how far they could squirt breast milk? Accepting that society's expectations are bonkers is the first step to accepting your new body. I thought that was great as well, because I mean, like, no one likes their body changing really, but thinking about it in a different way and reframing it and saying, well, what if it was a guy? Would he care? I kind of like that, because I can't imagine my husband being all that fussed about changes to his body in the same way that I would. So that was cool. And then the last point that I've bookmarked, was this point when she talks about ending your breastfeeding journey. So she talks about, you know, how you might feel when you finish breastfeeding. She's put, remember how you feed your baby has absolutely nothing to do with how good a mother you are. Ugh. Banish any thought from your head right now that how you feed your baby determines your worth as a mother, or even is a good mother anyway. Something sold to us by the media in order to make us feel guilty so we buy more stuff. If we really have to go with the idea that there are good and bad mothers, surely a good mother is one who loves and cares for her baby and makes sure they're fed. There we go then. That again is just a really awesome way of approaching that, because I certainly wrestled with that feeling of I'm not good enough, and I still do. If I do something that I think, you know, wasn't the best parenting I could do, I think, oh, I'm a terrible mother. I'm not a bad mother. Well, I don't know, ask my kids. But, you know, it's just, you know, we all do our best, and how you feed your baby doesn't make you a good or a bad mother. It's got a whole load of stuff in the back where it gives you other, you know, resources to go to. It's fully referenced. It's indexed. There's a section at the back to make notes, which is really cool. So in general, I mean, it's a 5-star book for me. I really, really liked it. I listened to the podcast Sprogcast, which I'll link below. They are such an awesome podcast where they talk about birth and early parenting, and they were reviewing this book. And they made the point that because it's got the same branding as the birth book, which is really popular, it's by a different author, but it's the same publishing house, hopefully it would mean that people will recognise the branding and pick the book up, because there's so much good stuff in here. So I think that's really good, that it might make people encouraged to read more about breastfeeding, which of course is why I wrote my book, which is here as well, by the way, my book. And due out in like 2 weeks. Right. But this is, it's really, really good. I love the fact that within, because it's kind of a how-to book, but it does touch on a little bit of the sort of politics, but it doesn't go into masses of detail. It's not really heavy in that respect. I go into more detail in my book than this one does, but you know, I think that's good. I think it's approached well because not everybody's interested. I'm really interested and I wanted to include it in my book, but yeah, I think as a book that's kind of designed for a new parent, like I said, as a how-to book, yeah, it's good that there was only like a little bit, enough to pique someone's interest to look elsewhere if they were interested, and to give someone an idea, but without like massively going into loads of detail, so that was cool. The main book that I would compare this with is a book called The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, which I'll stick a screenshot up here, which is my go-to how-to breastfeed book. I like both of them. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, it goes through more ages and stages, so like, oh, your baby is this old, here's what it might be like, and I'm really fond of that, and I would have liked that in here. It does that a bit in here, but not to the same extent, so that would be the difference for me, and I will probably still turn to The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding to get the information about, okay, your baby's this old, and so what. This, however, I think had a bit more of the kind of complex issues kind of stuff. I found it really interesting as somebody who's already fed 3 kids and doesn't really need particularly to read about how to. It had some really great stuff on like how to feed a baby with a cleft palate, or what if you're LGBTQ plus, and the issues that might involve. Because for me, actually, I think that makes me a bit more understanding of being in those kind of situations. So yeah, there's some cool stuff like that, and it goes through breastfeeding in emergency settings, which initially I read and went, okay, I'm aware of the issues surrounding that, like, but does it need to be in this book? But then the context that they use is in a flood, which of course does happen in this country, and people get relocated due to floods. So yeah, actually it does need to be in this book. So I thought that was really cool too. I haven't really seen that talked about in this way. So as I say, in general, I really love this book. I still really love The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, and, you know, as I say, it's an ages and stages thing, would more go with that. This, however, really interesting, really in-depth. I learnt stuff from it that I didn't know, which is cool. Not a lot, but odds and ends. And most people wouldn't sit down and just read this book in one sitting. This is more of a dip in and out of it and read the bits that you need to read at the time you need to read it. But like me being me, I just read it cover to cover because, you know. But actually, although it looks hefty, it is only 380 pages or something, and I got through it in like 2 days. So it's not a, you know, a hefty read. Anyway, so yeah, amazing book, really, really good, really well written by an amazing person. It's very evidence-based, which is only to be expected because that's Amy Brown is a scientist involved in breast milk stuff, so of course she's going to be good on her research and her referencing. Oh, and it also has all these snippets by like top people in the field, so like here a section about tongue tie written by a tongue tie practitioner, and it has contributions from other people well known in the field, you know, where relevant. So somebody, so also in the when it talks about expressing, it talks about the lady, I think it's Natalie Schenker, from Heart's Milk Bank. So yeah, it's great that it has that too. It's got contributions from lots and lots of people. It's really good. If you're thinking about breastfeeding or you want to know more about breastfeeding, it's a really good book. I really liked it. You know, I'd put it in my top 10. I can't really put my top 10. I put it in my top 5. I can't put my top 5 in order because it's too hard, and I love them all. Actually, I'm going to write a blog post on it soon. Yeah, it's good. It's a great book. Read it if you're interested. And if you are reading it because you're having a baby, then congratulations, and I hope you have a wonderful time. I'm really rambling now. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Please like if you did. Talk to me in the comment section about have you read this book and what did you think, or have you read anything about breastfeeding and you like the books that, you know, any other books. Like I said, my favourites, aside from this, because this is definitely top 5 material, Politics of Breastfeeding is my number 1. But like I said, there's others. I've made a video about it before, but this book isn't in that because this wasn't out. I would put this in, but I don't know what I would bump. This is a good book. Anyway, yeah, talk to me in the comments about it. Please subscribe if you would like to see more videos about writing and about reading, and I'll see you all soon for my next one. Bye!